All right, you may have noticed on this show that we're just in different outfits for these segments, and that's because we just gotta get them in where we can get in. You know, we've had people all over the place. In our last segment, we talked about Memphis basketball. We essentially put a bow on that, but now obviously we have to talk about Ole Miss basketball. And in our last show, we basically thought that it was going to be a euthanization of Ole Miss basketball.
That's wrong.
But then they went on a run in the SEC tournament. They beat Texas, they beat Georgia, they were right in it with Arkansas. And of course, anything involving Ole Miss athletics, we got to bring in this guy. You just can't talk Ole Miss without him. He is the host of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, which you can catch right here on the 24 Plus app, YouTube, and anywhere you stream your podcast. Once again, welcome to the program, Mr. Stephen Willis.
I tell you what, guys, if the Ole Miss men's basketball team would have played that way the whole season, we would be having a different conversation right now.
Totally different. You'd be talking about them making a run in the NCAA tournament. You'd be saying, man, this could be an Elite 8 team, you know, Sweet 16 for sure, but potentially Elite 8. They looked like a totally different squad. They did not quit on any possessions. They were hitting shots.
I texted Steven. I was like, this is unbelievable. This is unbelievable.
I know you were shocked, Steven.
Yeah, the ball's in the air with 5 seconds to go in overtime for a three-point shot to beat Arkansas, which that's a really good basketball team of what's going on. And you had Travis Perry guarding Acuff, who is the SEC Player of the Year, and everybody's like, Travis Perry has trouble defensively. Okay, so we're going to match them up together, and he did a good job. That's the surprising part of everything. He did a decent job in that game. Last year, Sean Padula hit the three to beat Arkansas. This year, A.J. Storr missed the three that would have beaten Arkansas. I mean, you take some, you lose some, but, I mean, the effort was there. Everything was there, and Ole Miss fans all around should be pretty proud of what they saw in Nashville.
Now, Stephen, I texted you about A.J. Storr. I was thinking that he had another year of eligibility, and it's sad that he's done. But one thing that I did tell you is I think that dude is a league guy. He's definitely somebody who I think is going to be playing at the next level. This was a kind of showcase spotlight for him. He really kind of like took over and took charge of that team. I think the difference and why they didn't beat Arkansas was when Comerdine fouled out. When Comerdine fouled out, it felt like that firepower kind of went away. They had to lean a little bit more on Storr and Perry, and those guys were gassed. But, man, I mean, going into that game, I had the feelings that Ole Miss was going to be a bid stealer. And so now I think for Chris Beard, coming off of a run like that, it gives you a little bit more pep in your step, a little bit more motivation, because you know how it gets. When you have a bad season, obviously we're dealing with it in Memphis. Some people are kind of questioning whether you're the guy for the future. And so now I think Chris Beard has something to kind of really work with, be like, yeah, we are like that. We just kind of got to fine-tune some things.
Yeah, and the weird thing about it was nobody's talking about the end of regulation. That was an and one. That should have been an and one with him finishing that play. Any other time during the game, it would have been an and one. Didn't get the call there. And if that happens, Ole Miss ends up winning the game, and you have the game against Vanderbilt, a team that it was very much on a knife's edge, even in Nashville and in Oxford. Vandy won both of those games, but yeah, the bid stealing was like seconds away from potentially happening. And like I said, I'm proud of the effort that we saw in Nashville, but it's important to remember there are lessons to be learned from the actual whole season too.
Yeah, I think that one thing that we have to all keep in mind is how much energy it takes to go on a run like that when you haven't played that hard for that many games in a row all season long, right? And so that was the first time. That's where were they a better team than Arkansas in that championship game? Probably. Probably from top to bottom overall during that game, they probably were. Did they run out of gas? Absolutely, because they'd had to do something they hadn't done all year, and that's play hard from tip to buzzer for the entire game and block out, make plays, get stops, do all the things that they had not done for an entire game all season long. Now you got to do it 3 games in a row. Of course you're exhausted. You're dead.
Yeah, no legs. That actually bit Coach Yo earlier in the season when they had to reschedule into the winter storm thing to where he played 4 games over the course of the week against top 25 teams. They had no legs at the end.
So something I want to ask you guys about, and I wanted to talk to Greg about it when we were talking about Memphis basketball. Obviously, both the Tigers and Ole Miss, when they lost, that ended their season, and they chose not to play in any postseason tournament. They're not playing in NIT. They're not playing in the college basketball crown. What do you think? I mean, I'm just seeing this across college basketball. The NIT used to mean something. And the college basketball crown, they're trying to make it mean something by even incentivizing it with a cash prize. Why are these teams not playing? Because to me, I would think that I would want to play a couple of more times with my brothers because I may never play basketball again.
Right.
But these guys are so quick to want to not play.
Steven, I'll give you my 2 cents and we want your take. Most of these coaches have got to start working on the portal. They got to start recruiting right now. So I'm gonna extend the season by 3 or 4 weeks playing in the NIT with a team that's not going to be my team next year. Or am I going to start doing my research, getting ahead, especially if we are a team that has not had a successful season? If I'm Penny, if I'm Coach Beard, what am I going to gain out of it?
Don't
right?
you get money for every win, though?
In the
that
NIT,
you can use in the portal?
Not enough to, not when you're talking about real portal money at this point. I mean, that's my take on it, Stephen, at least. And again, I think the prestige of being the NIT champion has kind of gone away as well.
Which is sad.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. You have a serious disadvantage of playing postseason with the transfer portal. Last year, Memphis and Ole Miss were in the NCAA tournaments. They were disadvantaged a little bit going into the transfer portal as far as the time that they can put in. This year, you're not going to take that disadvantage for an NIT or some sort of a lesser crown because the transfer portal, Ole Miss is probably going to turn over everyone but 3 or 4 players on the roster. I'm sure Memphis is the exact same way. There's too much at stake of what's going on because one losing season can be a blip, 2's a trend, and if it's a trend, it's a problem.
Yep. When you're talking about a situation where now you're trying to research, you're trying to scout, you're trying to get your background information on all these different kids and then determine what all of their worth is. You can't do that when you're scouting for your next game, when you're having to run practices, and then when you're on the road traveling. It really does. The transfer portal has killed the NIT.
But isn't essentially that's why we have a GM, which is what we talked about in the Memphis segment? And then think about it before you weigh in, when Ole Miss football went on their run, and Steven talked about it. I mean, Pete Golden had guys who were going to be on the staff next year, and of course he was just still using some of Kiffin's guys, but those guys were already kind of putting the work in the portal for him behind the scenes. Can't you have a guy that you just kind of designate to be like, hey, while we wrap things up, go ahead and get a head start for me?
2 totally different situations. I'm playing for a national championship. I'm playing for something at that point. Or I've had a dog of a season. The best I can do is win some NIT games and prolong this pain. The worst I can do is put a bad taste in my fan base's mouth by going out there and, putting up a bad game in the NIT. What happens if you're Ole Miss, you go out there and you lose first round of an NIT game against a lesser opponent? Now what's the last thing people remember in the season? Right now they think, man, we had a great run at the back end. There's hope for next year. Let's go get the players. You go out there and play like doo-doo against somebody in the NIT, then it's all back to, well, what are we doing? What are we going to do here? So I just don't see that there's a win in playing that situation that outweighs getting a head start on recruiting. Steven?
And the portal window opens up right after the national championship game. So give or take about 3.5 weeks before it opens up. If you wait until the portal opens up to start your offering and finding how much a player's worth, they're going to be worth $500,000 more than they are right now. So you talk about tampering and things that happens ahead, pre-portaling, you hear that phrase a bunch. That's what this is about. If you can get a player locked in as soon as possible, their value isn't going to go up because their value is just going to go up if they make it into the portal and everybody starts getting desperate and offers money.
And there's a part of this, Stephen, you bring up a great point. I mean, again, I coach a lot of basketball, and I am very deep in especially the women's side of the college basketball world. The pre-portal thing is a real thing. And I can tell you right now, there's so much negotiation and so many conversations that are had before a kid ever gets in the portal. My kids will call me and say, hey, Ruben, I'm going to get in the portal. I'm planning on getting in the portal. What do you think? Where should I be looking? Who's looking for somebody like me? And then I'm going to do my due diligence, which is reach out to the schools that I know might be looking and say, hey, if so-and-so gets into the portal, are you going to be interested? That happens every single day, all the way around. So to Stephen's point, which is a very valid point, if you wait till the portal opens to start your work, all of those kids have already decided for the most part where they're going. They've already agreed behind closed doors, under the table, where they're going to go, because I would rather agree to go play for you knowing what I'm going to get than let that offer go away. Now I wait till the portal opens and I may not get anything. One of the biggest parts of the portal that people don't talk about is the fear that the average player has. So they're going to take what they can get, what they know is there. So I think that's part of what you're dealing with, Rich.
So I think, essentially y'all are saying it's like teams like our alma mater, Oklahoma State and Auburn, are doing themselves a disservice by playing in the NIT.
It depends on how much portal work they think they're going to need to do. If you have a team where you feel like, man, I just got to replace 2 or 3 kids, you're probably not in that same boat. If you got to turn over 7 or 8 kids, like Steven said, if you're turning over 7 or 8, man, you got to get to work right now.
Yeah, and you have a situation like Auburn. I think it was Keyshawn Murphy just didn't show up for practice, just basically essentially quit the team for what's going on, opted out of the NIT game that they were going to play. And you have that PR thing to deal with. You mentioned the last memory that you have about a team. The last memory that Auburn's going to have is not whatever happened in the SEC tournament, is that they got beat in the NIT and half their players and all that, they were either looking away and one of them just opted out completely.
And that's a harder stain to clean off than the bad season with a good SEC tournament run, right? If I'm Ole Miss, I can have a bad season, make a good run in the SEC tournament. Everybody can live with that because that's the last thing you remember. You go make a run in the SEC tournament, then take your NIT bid and lose in the first round. And now everybody's looking at you like, we're not good enough to win an NIT game? You know, what are we doing here? So I just think that the game has changed a lot in that regard. And unfortunately, the NIT and some of those other tournaments is who's going to suffer.
It's sad because I love the NIT, man. And I don't even think they play the championship at Madison Square Garden anymore.
No, I think they moved it.
So, I mean, let's talk a little bit more positive postseason involving Ole Miss. And the women's team now, they did not get to host.
Which is sad.
But Coach O, once again, going to be on the national spotlight in the tournament. Steven, how deep we think Ole Miss is going? Now, I'll be honest. I'll just go ahead and say Ole Miss ain't winning it all. But I think they can get to the Sweet 16. What do you think, Steven?
I would agree with that. In women's basketball, we're still at the place where if you don't have a 1 or a 2 next to your name, you're not winning at all. That's the way it works in women's basketball. Coach O's a 5 seed. In the same division. She's going up to the Minneapolis Regional. They start with a 5-12 game against Gonzaga, and I think Sweet 16 is on the table. Now, the problem that you're going to have is in the Sweet 16, if you are a 4 and a 5, that is the absolute worst seed that you can get, because that means in the Sweet 16 you're playing a 1.
Yep.
And if you're dealing with that region that they're in is stacked. I think Duke's the 3, LSU's the 2. Something like it's going to be problematic. But a Sweet 16 run, yes, they absolutely have the talent to do that. And who knows? A couple of years ago, they went out to Stanford as an 8 or a 9 seed and ended up beating the 1 seed in the round of 32 to get to the Sweet 16. So one of the rare upsets in the women's tournament. So they can pull it off. They have the talent. They have one of the best players in the country. If they get hot, we've all seen what can happen in March whenever you have a player that gets hot. And I think Cody McMahon could be a difference maker for the Lady Rebels.
Yes. I agree with you, Steven. Unfortunately, you are correct, 1,000% correct on this one point, that if you don't have a 1 or 2 by your name, typically in the women's bracket, I mean, it kind of goes by numbers. The men's bracket, you can pick an upset here or there. I think so-and-so's got this advantage because of this, but in the women's side, man, it becomes a numerical game almost from the top to the bottom. So I agree. Sweet 16 would be a solid run, and hopefully Coach O and them do that, and maybe even a little bit more. But again, that's tough. UConn's probably... I mean, I don't know who's going to beat UConn.
Yeah, I got UConn winning it all. Steven, we are running out of time, so let's quickly jump into your predictions for the big March Madness NCAA tournament. Who's your Final Four? Who's your national champion? Who do you got cutting it down the nets?
I got Final Four, Duke versus Florida, and I have BYU versus Iowa State on the other side. Yeah, I really like that stud player that the Cougars have for BYU, and I think they're going to go on to a run. Yeah, and Iowa State, I got to see them last year.
They're good.
I like the way they play the game. They were really good, and Duke and Florida has a chance to be special. I've got Florida beating Duke. It's going to be Florida versus BYU for the national championship, with the Gators winning it all.
Ooh, Stephen, with your takes, we always appreciate it. Stephen, real quick before we let you go, tell the people what you're working on.
Hey, spring practice starts Monday. Wednesday was Ole Miss's pro day. We have a lot of football that we're going to talk about. We have college baseball over the weekend. The Rebels are playing against Kentucky. And of course, we will be starting to pre-portal ourselves to try and figure out what basketball is going to do.
Stephen, always appreciate your time. And obviously, we're getting into this spot where Ole Miss, where we just – now, I mean, with basketball over, it's like, dang.
Now you start talking football. Ole Miss has become a football school. Now you're going to start talking football. Preseason football matters, bro, and it's going to be a big thing. Stephen, we appreciate your time, brother. You are, as always, bringing the knowledge.
And obviously, he talked about, his takes on March Madness. The goal is to beat Ruben, and we're going to get into more about March Madness when we bring a special guest on the program. We're back after this.
Beating me would be a crown jewel of your life.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. But